Hey everyone, I'm Kim, the mom boss behind EmeryandK. Welcome back to my channel. Sorry, it's been a while. It was a crazy holiday season. But today's Tumbler tutorial is this beautiful night sky with a hand-painted moon inspired by Amethyst Vasquez on TikTok. I can't wait to show you. Let's get to it. As always, you're going to go ahead and start with a fully prepped cup. Today I am using a 24 plump from Steel Magnolia. This one came already prepped, otherwise I would have sanded it and painted it white. Then you're going to grab some black spray paint. You're going to want to have your white spray paint on hand, and you're going to want to have your clear paint nearby in case you need it. You might not, you might, so just have it nearby in case you do. And then you're going to want a piece of plastic. This is just like a little plastic bag. You could use a shopping bag. Any type of crinkly plastic will do. So you can see my tumbler's kind of messy. That's because I did the other side first, and it came out bad because I overworked it too much. So lesson learned. So what we're going to do is first go ahead in with a few shots of our white paint. That's just so it's nice and wet. You're going to go directly into your black. Now, don't overdo it on the paint. Don't overthink it. That's what I did on the other side, and I totally messed it up, but it's going to get covered anyways. So now you're going to kind of go back through, and you're going to decide where you want the shadow on your moon to be, and then you're going to want to decide on kind of the light spot. So add a little bit more black where you want the shadow to be, and a little bit more white where you want kind of the light source coming from. Then you're going to go ahead and take your plastic, and you're just going to plop it on there, and you can leave it as is, how it first turns out, or you can take your plastic, kind of crinkle a little bit and kind of dab it on there so that you can build some texture where you want to. And I knew I wanted to have a little bit more of that darkness in there, but I wanted my moon to have really good texture. So just a little bit, don't overwork it. I did that on the first side, and then it was just like a gray blob. But if you mess up, you can be like me and just go right to the other side of your tumbler. Once you're happy with how that looks, go ahead and set it aside. You're going to go ahead in with your white and your black. And again, I talked about earlier kind of the shadow and the light source on your moon. So where there's the light source, I decided I wanted mine to kind of come from the top right of my tumbler. You're going to do the opposite side with your shadow, and I hope that makes sense. So like the shadow of my moon is going to be more on the bottom left, kind of the opposite of the light source, if that makes sense. So don't, again, overdo it here. You just want to add a little bit of white for your light source, a little bit of black where your shadow is going to be. Go ahead and let that dry, and now we're going to do a coat of epoxy, and in normal Kim fashion, I'm going to be adding mica powder to my epoxy because I want the sparkle. I am going with Flash White. This is from the Glitter Guy. I'm going to do just a little bit. You don't need to overdo it with these mica powders. They are so powerful. So go ahead and sprinkle a little bit in your epoxy, apply it to your tumbler, and here's what it looks like. It is stinking beautiful. So once your coat of epoxy has fully cured, I let mine sit for about 24 hours. You're going to grab a scrap piece of vinyl. It doesn't matter what color it is. It can be removable, permanent, whatever you got. You're going to measure out your circle for your moon. Now this is totally a personal preference if you want it really big statement moon or a little bit smaller. I went with a 3-inch circle that I just made in Cricut Design Space. And here I'm just deciding where I want my moon to be and which part of that texture I want to show. So the only place you're going to see on this tumbler is where that circle is. Everything else we're going to go ahead and paint over black so you won't see anything else. So just keep that in mind when you're deciding where to place your moon. Once you have that on there, you're going to go ahead and grab your black spray paint, and you're just going to do an even coat of black over top. I didn't record it because it's pretty basic. So now we're going to do the stars, and this method is so darn cool. So you definitely want to wear a glove on your hand. You're going to take your white spray paint. You're going to spray just a little bit on your pointer finger. Now you can see here I'm kind of flicking it off onto my really cobweb covered basement door, but it's fine. So get the spray paint on your finger, flick it off a few times to get off any big blobs, and then go ahead and kind of flick your finger onto your cup. And I apologize, I'm kind of in and out of the frame here, but I was like bent over in a weird way trying to record this and also make sure that my cup came out pretty because it's so hard to record spray painting with a tripod and a light in your face. But I'm just going to repeat the process all over my cup. So basically, the more paint you have on your finger, the larger your little blobs are going to be, and the smaller they're going to be. So this is a personal preference. I really wanted a mixture of more statement kind of stars is what they're supposed to be, and then kind of smaller ones. Like when you look at the night sky, sometimes there are ones that are super bright, and then there are other ones that are just kind of hanging out in the background. I really wanted to get that look. So I'm going to continue this until I get what I like. I did practice this a little bit on a piece of cardboard before going onto my tumbler, and I would suggest you doing the same, just so you kind of get the feel for how you want it to go. So once you're happy with all your stars, go ahead and set it aside to dry. So once your paint is totally dry, you're going to go ahead and remove your vinyl. I almost forgot to record this, but then I remembered. So I just took my weeding tool and pushed it into my vinyl to pull up a little bit and then used my hand to remove it. Super simple. I have got to admit that I did not think this was going to look as stinking gorgeous as it does, and I was so excited at how good it came out. So I'm going to put one more coat of epoxy on this tumbler. I'm going to let it cure, and then we're going to move on to our decals. So I took such a long time to decide on a decal for this tumbler because I wanted it to be delicate, but still like a statement quote to add, if that makes sense. So I settled on this one from Vanessa Davis, VMD Designs on Etsy. I will, of course, link this decal in the bio if you want to use this one. So I uploaded it into Design Space, and I did a 0.03 offset because I pretty much offset every single one of my decals. So I'm going to be putting this the opposite of my moon here. So my offset I just cut out in a basic gray vinyl, and then the top words I cut out in that really beautiful black holographic vinyl. So here you can see I'm just kind of placing this on my cup. I really want it to be centered the opposite of the moon, if that makes sense. I'm going to grab my ruler, I'm going to measure it, I'm going to make sure that I get it on there right the first time, because one of the worst things about putting on a decal is when you get it crooked and you have to remove it. So go ahead, measure, make sure that's even, not only that it's straight, but it's also even from the sides of the moon as well, so that you don't end up with it super close to one side. Once it's on there nice and straight, I'm going to go ahead and carefully peel off the backing and then lay my decal down, press it on really well, and then we will move on to the main text, or the top text, whatever you want to call it. So you will notice when I'm layering my decal, I layer it weird. If you see my other videos, you know that I do it like single word by single word because I don't want to screw it up. I find it really hard to get a perfect layer when I try to do like the whole decal at one time, if that makes sense. You can also see on my decal there that I have some pieces I left in when I weeded. Any of the little tiny pieces, I'm going to weed after I have it on the cup, just because this font is so beautiful and delicate. I don't want to tear it or risk kind of ripping it up as I'm trying to weed those little tiny sections. I didn't record the entire process of me layering my decal. It's a pretty kind of straightforward thing, but I also find it super hard to layer a decal well with this camera like right in my face. I'm kind of like trying to look over it and not have my head blocking the view. So I sped it up and I only recorded a few words, but you can see I'm just putting the words on one by one. Once I'm finished, I'm going to go in and take out all those little pieces that I didn't weed before, and I did have to hand place the little dots on the eyes, and I ended up removing the period at the end of this quote just because I didn't really care for how it looked. But that's it. Once your decal is finished, you're going to go ahead and do 2 more coats of epoxy and your tumbler should be good to go. I did end up adding a little bit more of that flash white into my last coat of epoxy because I decided I wanted my black to have a little bit of a sparkle too. But that's totally up to you. Same process as before, just mix a little dash into your epoxy. And that's it. Your cup is finished. I hope that you found this tutorial helpful, maybe a little bit inspirational. If you did, I would love a thumbs up on my video. If you want to see more tutorials in the future, please go ahead and subscribe to my channel. Thank you so much for watching. Until next time, happy crafting.